Has anybody ever hit a stall or a plateau on their weight loss journey before? Bunch of hands. Today's presentation, this is going to be more of awareness, but it's going to be diving into what to do if you ever hit a stall, when it comes to losing weight, when it comes to losing body fat, how to just overcome weight loss stalls or plateaus. And once again, this is going to be all about awareness, giving you guys some actionable steps in terms of what you can do. And you're like, oh man, I'm topped out, right? There's nothing else I can do. Well, then we're also going to go into some strategies, right, to kind of help you guys out. So, regardless, wherever you're at when it comes to your health and fitness journey, this presentation is going to help you out from every single area. What causes, weight loss plateaus? For starters, metabolic adaptation. You guys hear me talk about that all the time, meaning if you're doing the same workouts, you're doing the same eating protocol, whatever the case may be, your body's a machine that's always going to adapt, and this goes for multiple things, not just your own health and fitness journey, but in every area of your life, right? Meaning that if you just randomly decide to go to Italy and spend the next 5, 10, 15 years there, I'm pretty sure you're going to learn how to adapt and speak a whole different language. That's just how we're kind of wired as human beings. The second one is just not being the best when it comes to actually being in a calorie deficit. It's just like people often underestimate, their calorie intake or often, overestimate how many calories they're actually burning when it comes to working out, cardio, regardless. Number three, and I see this often, and this is something to once again just be mindful of as we grow older, right? In your 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s, your body's losing its muscle mass. And anytime you're losing its muscle mass, it's very easy to hit a stall when it comes to losing body fat, obviously. But I'm going to share with you guys some specifics in terms of what you can do, whether you go to the gym or whether you work out at home, what you can do today to help you just put on some more of that lean muscle tissue and also talk about the benefits of doing so. And then once again, another form of adaptation is exercise. Albert Einstein said it best, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. And this is why for most of you guys, right, when it comes to being a member here at Heartletics, we're constantly changing up the workouts, right? Typically every 4 to 6 weeks, we're changing up either the rep ranges, changing up the exercise, changing up the actual workout routine itself, the split. So that way, once again, you're never really hitting that comfort zone when it comes to your training, aka that adaptation. Now, some other common causes when it comes to hitting a stall, hormonal changes, right? When it comes to leptin, right? The satiation hormone. Ghrelin also feeling more hungrier. Oh, Jason's hopping here now. Let me get him in here. Cool. Number six, right? Non-compliance or second guessing things. So I often see this from time to time with most guys. They're great Monday through Friday, but on the weekends, they're second guessing things. They're throwing spaghetti up on the wall, hoping and praying something sticks. And either they're way over on the calories or way under on the protein. And that typically hurts somebody when it comes to their weekly average. Seven, you guys are going to hear me talk about this often also as we continue on this presentation, is stress and sleep, right? I sound like a broken record, but I really want you guys to understand this. You can be doing all the right things under the sun, the right workouts, the right form of nutrition, hydration, everything. But if you're underneath a lot of stress, and we're going to talk about some of those stress factors here often as we continue on through this presentation, you're not going to see the results you're looking for. And then lastly, water retention, whether that's from increased cortisol, let's say sodium intake, right? So if let's say you guys are ever going out to eat, right? And maybe you're eating some Chinese food or whatever the case may be with a lot of sodium, your body's going to be storing water. Same thing when it comes to drinking alcohol. Your body's going to be storing some of that water weight from it. Now let's get into signs of a true plateau. Because once again, not seeing the number on the scale just decrease every single week, that's not really a good sign, right? So I want to actually go into what is a true plateau, and I want to break down some more specifics in terms of like how I found out this information. So number one, not seeing any form of progress after about 3 to 4 weeks. And you got to understand this, that once again, losing weight every single week, that's not the reality. Okay. Fat loss is not linear. And I say that all the time. But when it comes to just losing weight with only one form of a variable, meaning the scale, that's the least important thing. And this is why it's so important, guys, to be doing your measurements, tracking your progress photos, everything like that. So that way you can actually learn about your trends. Because oftentimes, most people, they're going to lose some weight, hit a little bump in the road, but as soon as they continue on that journey, they lose even more weight. It's not like they have to change anything up with their training, doesn't have to change up anything with the nutrition. It's more so about them being consistent and having patience. The second, right, is once again, no changes in body composition. So meaning like, hey, your body fat percentage, your measurements, once again, progress photos. And that's the importance of, every single week, at least one time per week, tracking all your data, not just the number on the scale. And then the last one is like, let's just say you hit a stall when it comes to your strength and performance when it comes to your workouts. So if, for example, let's just say you're not losing any weight and you haven't been, and it's been 1 month, but in the course of that entire month, let's just say you started off maybe that first week, you can only do 10 push-ups. And then that second week, you can do 20 push-ups. And then that third week, you can do 30 push-ups. And that fourth week, you can do 40 push-ups consistently. Even though you're not seeing any form of progress with the number on the scale or the body fat percentage or anything like that, you're still progressing. Okay, so a true plateau means you're not seeing any progress. You start off at 10 push-ups in the beginning of the month, and at the end of the month, you still can only do 10 push-ups. Okay, these are all just good signs of, once again, hitting a true plateau to think about, right? The next time you're on your fat loss journey, when it comes to, man, I really want to lose some weight, you might be getting a little bump in the road, and that's okay, you know? Now let's go into what the experts have to say. And I got this information from Dr. Lane Norton, Dr. Eric Helms. I have great most respect for these two. They've done a phenomenal job when it comes to, in my opinion, teaching others how to, once again, create sustainable habits. The same thing that you guys are learning here at Heartletics, and then Dr. Mike Israetel. So they say here that a true plateau is rare before 8 to 12 weeks of consistent dieting. Okay. Most stalls are tracking errors, water shifts, or just insufficient deficit adjustments. And we're going to talk all about this as we progress. Okay. And then true metabolic plateaus happen after a prolonged dieting, typically after 12 weeks. So, with that being said, once again, losing weight, it's not linear. I wish that was the case because most people want to sign up for a program, do a workout routine, do a diet, and they want to constantly see results, okay? But the reality is, once again, knowing your body type trends, this is what's going to help give you peace of mind and, most importantly, patience. There's typically 3 different types of trends out there. The first one, somebody's going to lose some weight, hit a little stall, lose some weight, hit a little stall, lose some weight, hit a little stall. Second trend is somebody's going to lose some weight, gain a little bit of weight, lose some weight, gain a little bit of weight, lose some weight, gain a little bit of weight, lose some weight. And then the third fat loss trend is typically someone's going to lose some weight, hit a little stall, right? Gain some weight, lose a bunch of weight, hit a little stall, gain some weight, lose some weight. And the moral of the story for all this, guys, is as long as you're consistent and you continue to progress, put one foot in front of the other, show up each and every day, strive to be 1% better, you will eventually break past that plateau. Promise you that. Okay. Now, how to confirm if you're actually in a true plateau? It says here that tracking meticulously, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, but once again, it is a great telltale sign of, are you actually in a plateau? Because if, let's say, you're not actively tracking your nutrition, right? Then once again, you could be second guessing things. And sometimes when we eyeball things, we could be overdoing it, maybe eating more calories or not hitting enough protein. But once again, we're second guessing things. So this is only to just identify if you're actually in a true plateau or not. Second is to check up when it comes to your sleep, your stress, and also activity levels. This is very important. Third, compare your progress photos and strength metrics. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're starting off the beginning of the month, you can only do X amount of push-ups or X amount of squats or bench press. And by the end of the month, you're progressing. You're not really in a plateau. Same thing with, once again, the importance of us tracking our progress photos is actually see like, hey, are we actually losing weight? And guys, don't just look at your stomach when it comes to your progress photos. That's the worst thing that you could do, okay? When it comes to losing body fat, all right, we're always going to lose it in our face first, okay? Our upper chest, our upper back second, our arms next, right? Typically then our legs, and then it just goes right down to our midsection. Our midsection is always the last little bit that's going to be able to leave our bodies. So that means don't look at it first when it comes to looking at your progress photos, okay? Because remember, that's the last little bit to leave. And then lastly, number 4, if everything else is stagnant, right, it's a true plateau. And that means it's time to make some adjustments, which once again, we're going to be diving into on this presentation. So if you guys are taking down notes, this is what I want you guys to do. Write just down 1 through 7. And these are going to be the essential 7 fat loss habits that we go over inside of our coaching program. I've been teaching this since 2017 when I first got started with Heartletics. Nothing else changes from this. Okay, so I'm going to do a deep dive and break this down for you guys. So for starters, number one, calories. Rate yourself, right? From one being like the lowest for not being compliant, and five being like, hey, you got this locked in, like for to the teep. No second guessing anything. You got this locked in, okay? Rate yourself and be honest. Nobody's gonna know here but you guys, but honesty is the best policy. So when it comes to your calories, if let's just say, hey, you're supposed to be having around 2,000 calories, plus or minus 200 calories with some wiggle room. So don't go above 2,200. Don't go below 1,800. Where are you typically at? You know, is it like, hey, for a fact that what you're consuming, right? You're even, tracking the barbecue sauce, right? Or whatever the case may be, right? You're playing it safe and you're within that range. If you're compliant all the way to the top, right? Give yourself a 5. And then once again, be honest with yourself. On a scale of 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, where would you rate yourself? For second, right, the macros, specifically just the protein, okay? I don't want to say, hey, you need to dial into the carbs, you need to dial into the fats, because I don't teach about that. I teach about how they're two different fuel sources. But with your protein, once again, where are you at, right? On a scale of 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, where are you at when it comes to hitting or going above your protein goal? The third one is the strength training. Okay. This doesn't matter if you're at the gym or it doesn't matter if you're at home, but when it comes to your specific strength training, right, the workouts that you're doing, and we're going to talk more about this in this presentation, where do you feel like you can improve on? How would you rate yourself? So, for example, if let's just say you're doing 3 or 4 workouts per week and maybe you're right there at home with or without equipment, how would you rate yourself? And I don't mean just showing up, because somebody can show up and do 4 out of 4 workouts, but if they're not busting their butt, they're not huffing and puffing, they're not dripping in sweat afterwards, they're not, in my opinion, not going to be a 5 out of 5. Because showing up and having the right intensity when it comes to showing up, two different things. So be honest, rate yourself. And once again, we're going to go right into that intensity here in a little bit when we talk about how to overcome some of these plateaus. Number 4 is NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You can think about this as cardio if you want, whatever floats your boat. But this just means how much movement are we getting, right? If let's just say, hey, our goal is to strive to get in at least 8,000 steps, where are we at with that? Can we maybe get 10,000? Can we maybe get 12,000? Can we maybe get 15,000? Like all these different um, fat loss habits, you guys should typically know for yourselves at this point in your stage, what more can you do? And maybe you can't. And once again, if you can't do any more, we're going to get into what you can do here in a little bit, but just rate yourself. Okay. Hydration. Okay. This is drinking on average 1 gallon of water a day. Where would you rate yourself? If let's say you're going above a gallon, great. Maybe you're above a 5. Maybe you're right at a 5, right? This is for you to be, honest with yourself. If you're below a gallon, once again, write that down. Just rate yourself. 6 and 7 are very important. Okay. Stress management is number 6. And once again, you could be doing all the right things under the sun, but if you're not dialed into the recovery aspect and the stress, you're going to be doing more harm than any good for your body type. And when it comes to losing body fat, okay? So rate yourself. And stress isn't just finances. Stress isn't just worry, doubt, fear. Stress could be a lot of different variables. Stress could be, let's just say, not eating properly. Stress could be worried about your goals. Stress could be overwhelming, right? Stress could be sickness, injuries. There's a lot of different variables when it comes into stress. And then lastly, the sleep and the recovery, right? This and number 6 goes hand in hand. So rate yourself, right? If let's just say sleep, right? On average, hey, we want to get around 7 to 9 hours. 8 would be perfect, right? If let's just say 8 is where we're trying to strive at, where would you rate yourself 1 to 5 on that? Okay. Now, with that being said, let's get into the next slide here because I want to go over some key specifics when it comes to training and nutrition tips. But once again, this is a lot going to be about awareness and to really educate you guys to understand, like, okay, hey, maybe the problem with me losing weight isn't as complicated as I thought it was. So the goal here is to create a deficit. That's the name of the game, right? You cannot lose body fat unless you're in a deficit. Now, obviously, you don't want to be too much in a deficit because you don't want to risk losing muscle mass if you're not eating enough, okay? Or you're doing X amount of cardio, you're not focusing on strength training. Once again, there's different forms here, but the overall goal, bigger picture, is how do we create a deficit for ourselves, okay? So think about this as energy in, versus energy out, laws of thermodynamics, okay? There's always going to be a certain point, guys, once again, where you can't just cut any more calories. You're at the bottom of the barrel and you can't do anything else more. So, for example, if let's say you can only commit to um, 10,000 steps Monday through Sunday, you got that locked in. And let's say 4 workouts, 30-minute sessions, right, per week, you got that locked in. Maybe that's it for you, right? Maybe you can't commit to another workout day. Maybe you can't get more steps in. And so, once again, it's all about figuring out, not risking it for the biscuit, making corrective adjustments based around your lifestyle, but also your schedule. Because that's what matters the most here, guys, is the consistency. It's what's ever going to be sustainable for you. When it comes to also creating that deficit, we can't just cut down lower and lower and lower and lower into our calories. Because at a certain threshold, if let's say we're eating 1,300, 1,400 calories, right? The bottom of the barrel, that's not sustainable, right? And typically what's going to happen is that our body doesn't want to lose anything else. It knows that if we continue to lose weight, we're going to be diving into losing some of that muscle, which is not good for our BMR that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. And so we start to store body fat. Our body goes into starvation mode. So I want you to think about it like this, okay? If let's say the glass is your body and the liquids is body fat, okay? And we're at this point right now that I just talked about for this analogy where we can't cut down anything else, right? We can't cut down any more calories. And I want you to think about that as you taking over that cup and just pouring out the liquids, okay? We can't do that anymore. And let's say we're already capped out when it comes to, once again, energy that we're putting out there, right? Maybe that's cardio, maybe that's steps, maybe we can't do another workout day, whatever the case may be, we're capped out on that. How do we get the glass, right? How do we get it so that way the liquids, aka the body fat that's inside the glass, how do we get it out? And I want this analogy to really click with you guys because once you understand this, you're going to realize here like, okay, cool. How do I actually make better forms of progress with my health and fitness journey without cutting out any more calories, without making any big adjustments like fasting or cutting out all your carbs or doing a water cut, whatever the case may be? How do we actually change it up? Well, it's simple. We put on more muscle. And don't think in your heads, muscle, right, is big, bulky, steroids looking. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Think about it like this, and this is going to help you out when we get into the next slide here with the BMR. Muscle is just the transfer, right, of body fat tissue, okay? So if you can either have fat or if you can have muscle, right? Let's push away our bones, our ligaments, our joints, our organs. Let's push that aside and let's just say your body's either fat or it's muscle, okay? The more lean muscle tissue you have, it's not like it changes your body composition, okay? But what it does is it helps you actually lose more body fat overall because of that muscle tissue, because muscle weighs more than fat, and you need that for your BMR. Okay, so remember, when it comes to you can't increasing any more energy that you're putting out there, you can't get any more cardio, you can't work out another extra day, whatever the case may be, you're capped out, right? 5 out of 5 for your schedule, for your body type, you're capped out. And let's just say we can't go lower on the calories because if we are, maybe we're not even going to be getting enough protein. We're going to be losing our muscle. We don't want that either. What else can we do for training? It's simple. We put on that muscle. Okay. And so this is what's really going to help you guys out. This is called the TDEE, right? Total daily energy expenditure. And just think about this, right? This is just how it works within your body. You have your BMR here, your basal metabolic rate. And think about this as your body. You wake up and you don't leave, right? Your bed. You just sit there all day long, right? You don't move a muscle. You're still burning calories. Think about it like if let's just say there was a factory and all the employees are outside on a smoke break or a lunch break, whatever the case may be. But the factory's still going on inside. The Wi-Fi is still going. The lights are still going. The fans are still going, right? That's your body in a nutshell. Okay. And so, what's going to help you guys out when it comes to increasing your BMR, your basal metabolic rate? The only way to do this is by strength training. That's it. You are not going to be able to increase your BMR by moving your body more and focusing on more cardio. Doesn't work that way. Cardio is just a tool to help you stay within a calorie deficit. Okay. When it comes to increasing your BMR, it's strength training. Okay. So that's why I love this analogy because it shows here that, hey, what's next when it comes to burning calories, right? Is NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And then after that, TEF, right? The thermic effect of food. So the more protein, hey, the more fat loss. But at the very top, right, is EAT, exercise activity thermogenesis. So you actually go in the gym, you actually work out at home, focus on strength training, you are not going to be burning a lot of calories. That's the truth. If you ever check your fitness watch as you're doing a workout, you will always burn way more calories when it comes to cardio than doing the strength training. But with that being said, strength training is the only thing that's on here that is actually going to be able to increase your BMR. And this is going to move the needle forward when it comes to losing more body fat overall. Because once again, the more muscle you have on your body, the better it is for overall fat loss. Now let's go into this because this is what's going to help you guys out when it comes to how do we push ourselves to our workouts. Because once again, like a lot of this has to do with you showing up for yourself, you having that deep rooted why, right? You hyping yourself up before that workout and you getting in the right mind frame, you getting in the right zone. Okay. If you're going through the workouts and let's just say like, it's easy to breathe through, it's really not that hard for you. Once again, like you're going to be doing yourself a disservice. And maybe that's why you're not seeing the best progress is because mentally, you even know subconsciously, you could be pushing yourself a lot more, but maybe you're just going through the motions, right? Maybe we're just going through the reps. We're just trying to get over and done with and be done with it at that. That's the wrong mindset. That's not going to help you strive to break through your workouts. So where do I recommend you be? Always up here between a 7 and a 9. And just think about it like this, right? Like, what more can we do? If let's just say we're doing a body weight workout at home, so we have no equipment at all, and we got 20 seconds on that clock. Do you want to just like do those push-ups slow and steady for 20 seconds? All right. Or it's like, hey, we're going to push through, right? We're going to really tax ourselves. We're going to burn on this. And maybe, right, in between that exercise, before we get on to the next exercise, you're like, you know what? I don't need a full 10-second rest. I don't need a full 15-second rest. I'm good. I'm going to push myself for this one. I'm going to hit that skip rest button and go right to that next exercise. These are forms of, once again, progression, guys, on what more we can do to make this workout more challenging for us. And it doesn't matter, once again, you work out at the home with or without equipment, or you go to the gym, right? This is where you just have to mentally think about, okay, before you start today's workout, what are you willing to do and what are you going to commit to striving to be better, right? Pushing yourself during these workouts. Now, let's get to nutrition because I think this is going to be a lot of fun for you guys. Let's just say Monday through Sunday comes, right? And our calorie goals is 2,000 calories. We want to hit X amount of protein, X amount of carbs, X amount of fats. How do we make some adjustments when it comes down to nutrition? Okay. And don't overcomplicate this, guys. It does not need to be difficult at all. And once again, this, just so you guys know, is only if we're compliant across the board, right? When it comes to finding out if we're in a true plateau or not. Because if let's just say we're not really checking our macros, we're just second guessing things, your first protocol is once again that awareness, saying like, okay, maybe I just got to be more better when it comes to tracking things and be more diligent with it. So if let's say you are 5 out of 5 on the nutrition with the calories and the macros, great, then this is going to help you out, okay? So let's just say there's 2,000 calories. I want to show you guys once again how to make adjustments with the nutrition without making any changes to your calories. Because if you think about it, guys, that's the last little bit to leave. Okay. You never want to cut down your calories until you already tried other things. First, what more can we do? Meaning, can we get more steps in? Can we get another workout day? Can we push harder? Right? What more can we do? Right? And then when it comes down to nutrition, how can we make adjustments with this before we even cut out any calories? Because once again, if we're just constantly like, oh, the number on scale is not going down, I'm going to cut out 200 calories. And then 2 weeks goes by, the number on scale goes down, not going down. I'm going to cut out 200 calories. Once again, 2 weeks later, number on the scale is not going down anymore. I'm going to cut out 200 calories. All you're going to be doing is shooting yourself in the foot and slowing down your metabolism. That's the reality. Okay. So if let's just say for this person, 2,000 calories, right, for the weekly, we're going to make some small little adjustments. And if you see what I did here, guys, is all I did was just take away the desserts. Okay. And so do you have to change up anything with the calories? No. But sometimes it's just changing up some of the meals of the day that you're eating, or let's just say the volume of the food. So, for example, if let's say dessert is typically 200 to 300 calories and I took it off Monday through Friday, well, can I add in more for a lunch? Maybe I can replace that in for a snack and just add in more, maybe eat more breakfast. Sometimes, guys, those small little shifts, these are exactly what you need to once again form a change, right? So your body's not adapting. Because once again, if we're sticking to the same foods Monday through Sunday, the same eating routine, the same schedule, our body's going to get used to that, as I talked about earlier, when it comes to understanding, right, metabolic adaptation. So sometimes switching things up just in terms of how you're eating differently, but not taking away any of the calories, this is all you need to, once again, help you. What's another thing that we can do? Well, let's just say we decide that on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, okay, and you can make changes however you want throughout the course of the week. You decide to just skip the snacks and skip the desserts. And maybe for these, breakfast, lunch, and dinners, maybe you're piling on more food, right? So normally it's like, hey, you're having, 2 eggs and some egg whites, maybe it's like half a cup. Well, maybe now it's 4 eggs, and maybe now it's a full cup of egg whites, whatever the case may be, but you're replacing, right, your snack, right? And you're dividing it up and having a little bit more extra breakfast and a little bit more extra lunch. And maybe for your dessert, you're just taking those extra 300 calories. You're having a little bit more, protein, a little bit more extra carbs when it comes to dinner time. Okay. The next one, this is where we can maybe do fasting once again. And I would recommend that, hey, fasting is a tool. Once again, just like anything here that we're teaching you, it's a strategy. Find out what works best for you. But sometimes when we do fasting, it's like, okay, hey, why don't we just make sure that we eat the right foods Monday, Wednesday, and let's just say here on Friday and Sunday. And let's just say for these fasting days, we're focusing on pretty much just eating one meal a day, OMAD, right? So you're fasting all the way to dinner time. Let's just be mindful that once again, hey, when it comes to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and Sunday, can we make sure that also we're eating enough food? Okay. We're eating enough protein. We're focusing on still hitting a good amount of protein for dinners on our fasting days. So that way, our weekly average, we're still within our calorie range and we're still within our protein target. Okay. That's very important to understand. And then maybe this is a great analogy because this is what I personally like to do. Whenever I'm in a fat loss stall, this is my go-to, right? I carb cycle all the time. Okay. It does not need to look like this for an entire week. For example, if you want to combine something like this day or this day or this day, you definitely can. So how might it look like for you guys, right? Maybe let's just say we're carb cycling the entire week, right? Proteins and fats for breakfast, proteins and veggies for lunch, um, protein and carbohydrates, right, for dinner. And I'm saving the bulk anywhere from 150 to 250 grams of carbs in the evening time. And maybe we're just doing that, I don't know, maybe a few times a week or maybe once a week. Whatever you can do to, once again, make some shifts, make some adjustments. So that way you're not hitting this metabolic stall when it comes down to nutrition, where your body is constantly being forced and fed the same foods over and over again, the same types of food, right? AKA the volume. And in terms of the same frequency of foods that you're eating constantly, we're just changing things up, right? To still hit our average. Okay. Now, I want you guys to think about this. Going back here to the rating scale. Okay. So 1 being the lowest, right? In terms of compliance, 5 being the max. Okay. There's going to be a certain point where, hey, you guys are doing all the right things. You guys are pushing yourselves to the limit on the training, right? As I just talked about, you guys are making the right corrective adjustments when it comes down to nutrition that I just talked about. But this is where you really got to hone in, guys, on the last part, which is the recovery. So when it comes down to recovery, this is all stress. Okay. You have academic stress. So maybe that could be at work, school, whatever the case may be. That's financial issues, relationship problems, health issues, social problems, accidents, major life changes, social pressure, all these different forms of stress. You guys got to figure out, hey, what is going to work the best for you when it comes to relieving some of that stress? Okay. Everybody's different here. For me, it's venting, it's talking about things. I'm a huge advocate of getting crap off your chest, right? A problem shared is a problem cut in half. That's why I always tell everybody the best success you'll ever have inside of this coaching program is utilizing the community group. Don't be that lone wolf that's showing up for yourself. You're not going to end up getting the best success as if you could, okay? For other people, maybe that form of stress and helping them deal with that, maybe that is gratitude. Maybe that's meditation. Maybe that's going for a walk. Maybe it's talking to a close friend or relative. Whatever the case may be, you guys got to just make sure that you dial into that and focus on that, because I don't want you guys to be crushing the workouts, crushing the nutrition. You're not seeing the best results because, once again, oh man, it's because of all this stress. We're spiking our cortisol levels. So now let's just say stress is under control, nutrition's under control, training's under control. We're capped out on everything here. 5 out of 5 on everything. Now what do? Drop your calories. Okay. It's a small little adjustment. 150 to 300. That's it. So once again, maybe we're just going for, if let's say we're dropping 200 calories, right? If let's just say on average, our goal is 2000 calories, we're just dropping it down to 1800. Okay. It's not a big shift. It's not taking out 500 calories. It's not taking out, 200 and whatever thousand calories. It's literally the smallest things. Just make a small little shift. And typically, guys, this will help you break past that plateau. Always, okay? But just keep in mind, there's going to be a certain point where, once again, you're at the bottom of the barrel. And this is why you always have to go back to just saying, like, what can I do more to kind of help me overcome this stressful, time in my life, or what can help me push through harder on my workouts, or what can I do differently with my nutritional protocol just to make some forms of changes happen, okay? Now, last thing, right? Takeaways. So plateaus are normally most common. So just keep that in mind. But short term, right? 1 to 2 weeks, our stalls are usually from water retention, glycogen, or digestion, not because you're failing on a fat loss journey. Keep that in mind, right? If let's just say you're going out to eat Friday or Saturday, and that's a common thing, and wherever you're going out to eat and you're constantly, not taking consideration the cooking oils and the excess sodium, and you're stepping on the scale and you're doing your measurements, your body stats on Sunday morning, I bet you anything that some of the results, right, is also led to, once again, your eating habits on Friday night or Saturday night if you guys are going out to eat, okay? Number 2 here, true plateaus require 3+ weeks of zero progress. I mentioned this earlier in the beginning, guys. Okay. Don't be upset if, let's just say, it's been 2 weeks and you haven't seen the number on the scale go down. That is the least important factor when it comes to all this. It's about how you look and it's about how you feel, but making sure that, hey, we're taking a look at our progress photos. We're taking a look to see also, are we getting stronger? Are we getting faster? How are we feeling, right? These are very important signs to go off of, okay? Number 3, metabolic adaptation is real, but it's also manageable. So remember, I talked about the TDE chart, okay? Understanding what more can we do? Can we make up any adjustments when it comes to our workouts just to spice things up? Can we change up anything when it comes to our nutrition? Once again, just to get us out of that homeostasis, okay? Number 4, the number one cause of stalls is most importantly inconsistent tracking. So kind of just second guessing it, saying, hey, I got this. I'm cool with it, right? Like this is exactly, I know what I'm eating, but we're not actually tracking it to the fullest, right? Maybe a little bit of cheese. Hey, we're not tracking that. The barbecue sauce, we're not tracking that. And once again, I'm not saying you need to be obsessed by any means when it comes to that, because I personally don't do that. Okay. But I also know that, hey, if I'm not seeing results after 2, 3 weeks, I'll spend a solid day or two, maybe even a week max, and I really track everything to the T to make sure, like, okay, am I actually doing the right things as I say I'm doing? It's like, oh no, I'm actually overeating. Oh, I'm actually under my protein now that I really tracked everything. Great. Now that I got that dialed in, it's all right. Let's be aware of that going forward, make those small little adjustments, and let's continue to, progress. Protein and lifting are your best allies. You guys know that, right? The more protein you eat, higher up on the thermic effect of food, helping you lose more body fat. But on top of that, right, when it comes to the strength training, progressive overload with your workouts, that's going to help you put on that muscle. Putting on the muscle is once again going to save you guys when it comes to losing more body fat overall by increasing your BMR. 6 here, NEAT matters more than you think. Guys, I can say this in a nutshell, and most people that have ever done a step challenge here at Heartletics and you've went way past 10,000 steps, you probably lost a lot of body fat in that week, right? And it just goes to show you that, okay, can we just continue to move our body more? Can we just be more mindful of that? How often are we sitting down? How often are we too sedentary? Can we do simple things like, for example, if let's say you're watching TV or watching a movie in the evening time, can you stand up and move around, right? In the midst of watching that movie? Can you do some push-ups? Can you do some sit-ups? Whatever the case may be, instead of just sitting down there for the next 2.5, 3 hours. 7, right? Diet breaks to reset, adherence and hormones. This is something I talk about often, guys, when it comes to deload weeks in the gym, but also when it comes to just your nutrition. Hey, taking some time off and kind of just resetting things and then just getting right back to it. Number 8, sleep and stress are the silent plateau drivers. You guys know that. I don't need to continue to repeat myself, but monitor that. If you can sleep more, and if let's just say you can't do that Monday through Sunday across the board, can you sleep in more on the weekends? Personally, for me, that's where I get the most amount of sleep is on the weekends. And anytime I can take a little cat nap, right? Hey, that's even just a blessing in disguise, right? Another add on that's going to help me when it comes to just making sure I'm recovering my body properly. 9, adjust strategically. Where once again, guys, don't focus on making this big, huge cut when it comes to calories. You don't need to cut down 500 calories, 600 calories, 1,000 calories. Make the smallest difference. But before we get to that, once again, is there anything else more that you can do, right? I.e., right, move your body more. Can we push harder on our workouts? And then lastly, the leaner you get, the slower progress becomes. And that's because realistically, if you think about it, the more you guys are losing fat over and over and over again, your body, right, it gets into that starvation mode where you can't realistically walk around at 1%, 2%, 3%, 5% body fat. It's not sustainable, right? I know plenty of like bodybuilders, you see it nowadays with guys in their 40s and 50s, young guys, but they put their bodies through hell trying to do all these weight cuts and getting leaner and leaner and leaner, but it's risking their health overall. Your body needs fat to survive, right? Me personally, like getting below 10% body fat, I hate it. It is not fun at all. It's not sustainable, okay? But keep that in mind that the leaner that you get, the harder it becomes. And this is where you're going to need more patience. You got to, once again, keep your head in the right game, right? Focus on the consistency. And the final takeaway, guys, is once again, focus on how you look and how you feel, not the number on the scale. Mike, let's get your feedback. I want to get some guys' feedback from experience to been on the program for quite some time, and then some of the newer members. So, Mike, let's go to you first, man. Experience. Um, what is overall viewpoints or takeaways after that presentation? And then also, what personally helps you when it comes to if you're ever stuck on your own fat loss journey or stall?
Uh, one of my key takeaways is, one of the last points you made where as you progress, it gets harder because I'm in that spot where I hover between 11 and 12% body fat. And it takes a lot of work for me to drop anything right now.
So, what helps you keep your head in the game? Because you just mentioned that it takes a lot of work, right, to see any forms of progress and dropping that body fat. And for most people, right, maybe not experience it yourself, but put yourself into their shoes, they might get discouraged because they're like, man, I'm working hard, but I'm not seeing the fruits of my labor.
Uh, for me, it's just knowing where I'm at in my journey. I've done a lot of hard work to get where I'm at, so I know the amount of work that it takes to get here. And now it's really just my lifestyle. This is what I do.
Yeah, yeah. So to pick up what you're putting down, it's hey, we already formed these healthier habits. It's part of our lifestyle. So we want these goals, we're working towards these goals, but regardless if we reach them or not, we're just having fun throughout the process, right?
Exactly.
I like it. I like it. Jason, let's go to you. You missed the beginning part of this, but you can always go back and watch the replay. This presentation was for you. Going over just what to do, right, when you ever hit a stall or ever hit a plateau. For you, right, I want to know once again, what was your takeaway from listening in on what you got to hear? And then also, what helps you overcome your stalls or your plateaus on your specific fat loss journey?
Yeah, there was a lot of awesome information, and I definitely want to go back and look at it. So, because we had that conversation, a week ago, 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
on a Monday, and it just, I know a lot of stuff, right? But I don't know everything. And when we had that conversation, it really opened my eyes up because I'm thinking more, 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 keep doing more. And it was detrimental, right? So I was getting less sleep because I was getting up earlier, trying to add more in the mornings, and I was going absolutely nowhere. So switching things up, now I'm sleeping a little bit more during the week. I've adjusted my schedules. And last week, it's been months since I've lost anything, and all of a sudden I'm almost 4 pounds down just by changing a couple of small little things. So that was awesome. And then listening to you on this with the nutrition, now I got a couple more questions we won't get into now, but changing things around because I literally have probably been eating the same thing for the last 2 years every single day. right?
Yeah.
With
So
very little variation.
no, let's listen. We got time. Let's dive in it now because this is good since I'm recording it, where it might be more valuable for the guys and girls listening in and then watching the replay. So we will talk about that. But
Okay.
real quick before you ask those specific questions, I want you guys to first hear what he said, though. Okay. Jason was doing more and more and more, going nowhere fast. And then he started sleeping more, started dialing back more, and then lost 4 pounds. Two things to pick up from that. Okay. The first one is consistency and patience, right? Like he didn't just quit. He still, right, was trying to do something. Okay. And that led to him losing more weight. Okay. The 4 pounds. But also, the thing that he did more of is not what you guys thought of, right? It's not more steps, it's not more working out, it's not whatever the case may be. It's the recovery. And once again, guys, the recovery is so important. If you don't have the nutrition dialed in, if you don't have the sleep dialed in, if you don't have the stress dialed in, you're going to be hurting yourself in the long run. Okay. So just keep that in mind. The next time that you're struggling and not seeing the progress, just do an overall factor, right? Go back to the 7 essential fat loss habits and just look in terms of 1 to 5. Where are you at when it comes to compliance? Where can you improve more? And if you're capped out, you're like, all right, I can't focus on any more strength. I can't put on more muscle. I can't cut down on any more calories, right? Like, look at the stress. Is there something that we can do from there? Can we sleep more? Can we get that in on the weekends? Can we take some naps? Can we meditate more? Can we talk about our feelings more and not be all, inside of our head? Okay. These are simple things that are practical to everybody's lifestyle. They just have to learn how to implement it because sometimes doing more just makes it harder for us. Okay. Jason, ask these questions, man. I want to answer them.
Yeah. So one thing I heard you say is about actually switching up. So you specifically said carbs at night, which typically what I do, my bulk of my proteins in the morning at breakfast and the bulk of my carbs is at night. So my thought process completely flipping that and doing my supper and the breakfast and my breakfast at supper. Would that be kind of what you were putting down there?
Yeah, essentially. Like, and you can make any changes, right? So, like, think about it like this. If let's just say Monday through Sunday, you're typically eating the same foods, the same volume of foods, the same types of foods, right? Like, make a small little shift. And it doesn't have to be, once again, a Monday through Sunday shift. So for you, if you're typically eating, you said the bulk of your carbs is in breakfast and in dinner.
No, my protein, bulk of my proteins at breakfast,
Okay.
bulk of my carbs is at supper and snacks at night. So
And you work on the mornings?
yeah,
I bet you anything, right? Like if you just spend, are you on a 4 day split right now?
right now, yes.
So just literally start tomorrow after your workout, have your protein and load up on the carbs. Like literally
Okay.
just take anywhere from I would say 50 to 100 grams of carbs and take that from your snacks or your dinner and just have it right after your workout with you. Right? So maybe that's like a rice cake, maybe that is some hash browns with your eggs, whatever it can be toast, right? It could be potatoes, anything like that. Making that small little shift 4 times a week, I bet you anything you'll see a difference. And here's the reason why, right? Two reasons specifically. One, carbohydrates are going to help you with restoring your glycogen stores, especially post workout. So if you think about it, you're right, that is going to aid in recovery, meaning like, hey, you go to the gym, you crushed it. Well, we often forget, guys, that when we're pushing ourselves and we're constantly sore and focusing on lifting heavier weights, we're going to get, we're going to be kind of spiking our cortisol levels a little bit, right? Because the stress on our bodies, the stress on our muscles, that's not going to help with the recovery. So by having those carbohydrates post recovery, that's going to help with that. Okay. So that's one way, Jason. The second thing is that all you did was just change something up, not from a overall calorie and macronutrient perspective, but a time of day perspective where your body's not used to it. Because it's the same thing as let's
Mm.
just say, Jason, you did 4 workouts per week. And let's just say the exercise that you always did was push ups, burpees, jumping jacks, and body weight squats. That's it. Okay. And let's just say you always did it for 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 5 rounds. Okay. Well, let's just say that you hit a stall. Okay. But you want to continue on, right, with this form of training. Okay. What can we do differently? Can we do this for maybe 30 seconds, that exercise? You know? And once again, it's not a big shift. All you're doing was taking the same exercise you're doing, but how do we do them a little bit longer? Or how do we take the rest intervals down a little bit more? Or can potentially, right? Like, can we add in some form of exercises? So maybe like the push-ups, we're now doing with some dumbbells, right? We're getting a greater range of motion. Maybe let's just say the mountain climbers, we're doing cross-body mountain climbers. Now we're working more of our obliques. Maybe for the squats, we're holding on those dumbbells. Maybe for the burpees, it's burpee dumbbells, right? So once again, the same exercises, and all you did was just add in a little bit extra resistance. It might not seem like a lot from a day-to-day perspective. You're like, man, what is doing a little bit more extra reps or using some more extra resistance? What is shifting the time of day where I'm eating my carbohydrates? What is that really going to do? Once again, it's from a hormonal perspective, though. You can't think about it from like your eyesight, your brains, right? You got to think of it from a hormonal perspective. If your body's also used to doing like this and used to doing these exercises, it's those small little tweaks. And guys, that's really what it boils down to is constantly making these small little tweaks. You're throwing kind of like the monkey wrench, so to speak. You're twitching things up where you're getting more greater mind muscle connection and also hormonal responses because now your body has to pay more attention because it's not used to that. It's not in its AK comfort zone. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Ask another question, man. We got one more.
So then my next question was, again, pretty much eat the exact same foods, everything, every single day. And I'm not going to plan on doing this tomorrow because be a process. But in the future, would it be benefit to just completely scrap everything I'm doing and reinvent my daily meals to something completely different, but
Nah,
still hitting the same macros?
I mean, you can, and that will help you out, right? But like, here's the reason why I don't recommend it is because you already got your stables now, right? And like your
Yep.
stable, that's what's always going to adhere to consistency, right? So for me, for example, right, like protein oats, protein coffee, protein bars. If someone took that away from me, now I'm like kind of going a little bit like, all right, how do I focus on hitting this protein goal? I got to think about this, think about this. That's adding more stress to the plate. See what I mean?
Yep.
Right. So now it's like that stress is coming from how do I hit these numbers, and I'm thinking about it more. So it's not exactly going to be beneficial for my overall lifestyle. So I wouldn't recommend making like a huge dramatic shift, but I recommend like, okay, hey, what snacks do you normally eat, Jason?
Snacks, I have a protein bar and I have my popcorn at night. That's
Okay,
it.
perfect. So like this is what I recommend, right? For that protein bar, like are you allowed to switch to just have a cup of Greek yogurt, scoop of protein powder, add in some fruit in there or maybe some chia seeds?
No, yeah, I got plenty of that.
Just do that, right? Small little switch, right? And just see what happens, because it's once again, you still hitting your macronutrient goals, but you're just doing it in a different way. And it's a small little tweak. And then if let's say you got that down, can you make that small little tweak now for breakfast? Where mainly like it's typically X amount of eggs, X amount of egg whites, and toast. Can we maybe switch the toast for oats, right? Small little tweak. And that's what I want you guys to think about. It doesn't have to be this huge backflips and burpees, right? Because anytime you're thinking like that, it's never going to yield to long-term success. You will essentially, right, get some short-term gratification because let's face it, if you started doing burpees and backflips all day long, yeah, you're going to lose a whole bunch of weight, right? Like, yeah, you're going to see, significant signs of improvement, but can you keep that on for the next 3-4 weeks? Like, no, it's going to be typically a pain in the butt to comply to that,